person, a child, that grows into adolescent, teenage, and then adult, everyone, has three feminine and three masculine elements.
The third element
Of spiritual life. We're born in oneness with this uniqueness of self, but the life source that these six elements are, the seventh being, the self of the human will, who child is naturally aligned with in its heart's thought process of thinking. Do you understand?
is the power of transformation. It is the end result for the alchemist.
Stay with me. The first three elements are the birth of spiritual life inside the child. And get your religious dogma out of here for a second. Just listening and follow carefully, because it's important for you to know if you're a parent and if you want to learn how to communicate with child and grow that child into the productive adult that your heart's thought sees from the goodness of the well-being of your child. You see? Okay, so the three feminine elements of human spirit are that which births knowledge of the living, emotionally impacted self, and that uniqueness. The uniqueness is learned in childhood through the first element, which is truth. Truth is fed to us all. Let's just say there's a spiritual seed that feeds us this.
The brain is capable of millions of neural nets.
Has to biochemical
Emotional response.
Feeds us the knowledge of truth. And with a knowledge of truth learned in new human experience, as we grow through and learn through experiences, we have an emotional impact to experiences, knowing, and what we know in the experience is the experience, the truth of the experience. After we understand it logically, after thought has been impregnated by this feminine element, with the knowledge of truth from the experience, and then the emotional impact comes. The emotional impact is used as a guide to understanding first uniqueness and then the self-expression of that uniqueness. We see this in our children now before they're turned. Into the teenagers, your theory, and we call that innocence. We're very deeply moved by that, and knowing how the child works spiritually is knowing the spiritual mechanics of spirit, how they work. Okay, there's a ton of information to know, but this is the beginning, and the beginning of life in people. Okay, so truth and its emotional response gives a person knowing, a conscious awareness. Consciousness, that truth also provides thought and thought process. First thought is the first thought awareness in our experiences. As you're sitting here listening to me, it's a new experience for you. As I speak words, you're logically absorbing that and trying to understand them. That's a new experience. And because we're emotional creatures, we have emotional responses to those things. And if you're feeling those right now, then that's what I mean, but you're soon to feel them. And you've felt them. You felt their emotional response, so you know what I'm talking about. That's the first feminine element of the spiritual life inside the child. The second one is once thought has become impregnated with the knowledge of truth through the experience, and then the emotional impact to help self-discover self and uniqueness of self. From this life source that truth is to us, wisdom, the wisdom of truth and emotional response. That's another feminine element because it births knowledge of the experience. So we go through our experiences and we accumulate a knowledge base of our experiences. Knowledge base is fed to us from the knowledge of truth, fed to us from the life source, fed to us from whatever feeds the life source. You decide what that is in your heart's thought, because it's unique to the individual.
The third element.
After wisdom sees the knowledge base of truth that we have, that helps us understand to the point that we understand now, and more to learn, and we learn through the awareness of truth. So that's provided for. Life is provided for through truth. Wisdom of the two. Knowledge and the emotional response. The emotional response is its own knowledge phase. It is the heart's thought. The heart's thought has wisdom and a thought process. It connects with our masculine elements in thought. Anyway, wisdom explains a definition of the accumulation of the knowledge that we've experienced, you see? And it develops things like empathy. And we can act through empathy in other people, feel love by the actions of goodness. And what that takes is a person to calculate thought with intellect's feminine element is wisdom. Okay, so truth and logic is one element that brings life of that understanding. Truth in its understanding. Intellect and wisdom brings us to a light and logic, a greater light and logic that defines the first thought's understanding of our human truth. Do you see? So through intellect and wisdom, the lower levels of truth and logic that provide the information, we are led there through intellect and wisdom as long as we keep calculating thought, heart's thought, with the wisdom of good.
The third element.
Instead of the rejecting one, because rejection of human emotion, truthful human emotion in a child, is seeking, a child speaks and seeks acknowledgement. That's the joy and the innocence part, when a child feels acknowledged. But when we reject them, on purpose or not, and a lot of it's not on purpose, we think we're doing the right thing, but what we're doing is really killing off the spiritual life inside the child. It happened to each one of us, and each one of us know what that means. Well, now there's a map in understanding how that works. So now you don't have to. You have to develop yourself into a balanced, determined self in order to be the acknowledgement model of parenting.
The third element.
For which every child needs to maintain itself throughout into adult land without becoming reckless and self-destructive and a drain on community instead of a contributor. We are not bad people. We're not evil. There's an element, you know how life I just described, and you get that? An elemental, dark source of spiritual influence inside each of us because it's invited through the rejection model of parenting. Its dangers are the result of what we see in the world today. Each generation of human being used to think in terms of life. Now we think in terms of spiritual death of that life, innermost truth of the self, because we fear so terribly the humiliation, the stem result emotions of negative feeling that are left unresolved, that connect with early childhood feelings of humiliation, embarrassment, and ridicule. When we think we're going to feel that, we shut down, we don't express, and in that way we're in prison. The child becomes imprisoned inside his fear. Fear has, and those are the dark elements of the dark spiritual nature of people. It's fear. Fear has one emotion. It's fear of what, though? Fear of the emotional truth of the self. There's nothing to fear except for that first. And when we obey that fear, we say nothing, and in that, and when we don't work through our emotional selves as part of our life source, then we get all jammed up. The electromagnetic pulse in our hearts does no longer align with the Earth's magnetic pulse, in which thought and heart's thought, you see, connect and produce the same pulse. Ask your scientist. But when we don't self-express like a child does naturally, which we're supposed to maintain throughout our lives, but don't, it's because of the rejection model of parenting. If you're going to reject child, you're creating a monster of duality and spiritual nature, of fearing loss in thought of self-expression. The extreme of that is Hitler's in the world, is at the other end of that. Homeless people, junkies, mental illness that's allowed to rot out like this. The final masculine element is the human will of the self, the uniqueness of that self, that truth, emotion, and wisdom and intellect tell self that self is.
With the power of transformation, it is the end result for the alchemist.
So the first four elements, masculine and feminine elements in human self that birth life, in which we are naturally inclined to rebirth life from that life.
The third element.
In childhood are turned by the dark spiritual nature of fear and fearing loss. Truth, movement, gut feeling, intuition. We've been calling, I don't remember anybody ever calling it a life source, but it is. That's what it is. It births knowledge of
The third element.
That if they can understand God's anatomy, they can learn how his powers work. These ancient drawings reveal that God's body is similar to humans. The top symbolizes God's head, which is the source of will, wisdom, and understanding. Below that are symmetrically arranged organs and limbs, representing love, power, beauty, eternity, and splendor. The most unusual part of the diagram contains sensual imagery. The ninth part of God, called the foundation, is the phallus, or procreative life force of the universe. But according to the Sephiroth, God also has female components. The final element, often called Shekinah, was depicted as the feminine half of God. This image challenged the age-old view of a strictly masculine God.
Who are we? Where do we come from? What should we do? And where are we going?
Why are we here? Well, that is the ultimate question, isn't it?
To bring about in the human mind the radical revolution. The crisis is a crisis in consciousness. Man, he's still as he was. He's still brutal, violent, aggressive, acquisitive, competitive, and he has built a society along these lines. A crisis that cannot anymore accept the old norms.
I had the game wrong. The game was to find out what I already was.
What we find for the first time is that this feminine aspect, the feminine consort of God, is divine and is part of the divinity.
So to unite the male and female halves of God, this becomes the goal of the whole system. It describes that union in very graphic terms. There really is a romance within God. One brings together these two halves of God. You might say that this is how we actualize the divine potential in the world.
One thing I've learnt in the last 7 years, in every game and con, there is always an opponent. There is always a victim.
But we both know what you are, don't we? You're a man who needs a master.
The trick is to know when you're the latter, so you can become the former.
We're in a lot of trouble!
Because he knows who you are.
Mr. Clandestine. Mr. Ambiguous.
Mr. Mystery.
He's all up here, pretending to be you.
He's behind all the pain there ever was.
I am you!
The very last place you would ever look.
You should. Because he knows who you are.
I can hear you. What? I can hear you. I'm onto you.
You got it all!
Who
takes care of the good times, Jake?
I want nothing!
We're a team. We're best pals, Jake. You want to get rid of me? No life without me? You know life without me. Do you know life without me? No, because it doesn't exist. Do they talk about me, Jake? No, because I don't exist. Tell all your friends about me then, Jake. I protect you, and I control you. If I say do, you obey. If I say you're scared... You're scared! Been listening to the other side, haven't you, Jake? Listening to people that want to hurt you, Jake. New people. New! Not old friends like me. People you shouldn't trust. Not me. I've been your friend forever, since the beginning. Get rid of them, Jake. Forever. They're the enemy, not me. They're new. I'm old. I say they go. I say you do.
He's all up here. I am you! Pretending to be you.
You're weak without me. Weak. It's us against them, Jake. It's us against them.
The greatest con that he ever pulled was making you believe that he is you.
I am you!
You're not me.
Come on! Your best fucking friend!
Stop! You get it?
I am you!
I hate you!
Who had the capability of morphing or phasing into human form.
The concept and the feeling of love, for instance, is stored in this vast neural net. But we build the concept of love from many other different ideas. Some people have love connected to disappointment. When they think about love, they experience the memory of pain, sorrow, anger, and even rage.
We're in a lot of trouble! And what this means is that you had the high gods, the heavenly gods, and you also had lesser gods who inhabited Earth and the underworld. But non-physical spirit beings.
He goes on a murder spree, destroying everyone behind her death in gruesome fashion, and manages to survive multiple gunshot wounds in the process.
The hunting ground. They should have shot me in the head. The brain communicate with each other and how that affects consciousness and our perception. And what we found was that the heart beats out a very different message. And what we've now found is that if we look at the spectrum analysis of the magnetic field radiated by the heart, that emotional information is actually encoded.
But we're actually exploring things about our ancestors. We're exploring mythology. We're exploring accounts of our ancestors saying that they developed civilization, not on their own, but with the help of non-human intelligence.
And modulating into those fields.
Do you know what hell really is, Thomas? It's not lakes of burning oil or chains of ice. It's being removed from God's sun.
Is not the result of some core self giving commands to different cerebral areas.
Found in ancient texts all over the world.
Exactly how and to what degree our individual heart fields are affected is still under investigation. However, it is clear beyond any doubt that this field connects all of us to each other, planets, even stars. The heart field interacts with and is affected by the electromagnetic field of the Earth. This field sends signals to every cell in your body, affecting physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being.
And expect being seeded into human consciousness. Able to influence humanity.
If I say you're scared.
As a demigod.
This is not the result of some core self giving commands to different cerebral areas.
In a nutshell, scientists have discovered that the heart does much more than just pump blood throughout the body. The human heart emits an electromagnetic field that surrounds the entire body and extends at least 15 feet in every direction, as well as other people, plants, animals, anything that has electromagnetic qualities.
Look at it! A world built on fantasy, war, and danger.
So you're not worried about what might happen?
Just doing my job.
Willing to meet my creator.
You're such a great father.
And answer for every shot that I took.
Synthetic emotions in the form of pills. The best psychological warfare in the form of advertising.
Terror, evil. Nuclear weapons, terror. Fanatic. Terrorist of Al-Qaeda, terrorist. Armed with chemical.
I didn't care if it was the second coming of Christ.
Biological. Nuclear weapon. Terrorist.
Oh, that's not me, no.
Evil.
Just doing my job. Oh, that's not me, no.
Mind-altering chemicals in the form of food.
World terrorism, terrorism. Global terrorism, terrorism.
I didn't care if it was the second coming of Christ for the brainstem, basically. And if you can hit that, he's gonna die before he hits the ground.
Oh, that's not me, no.
It's pretty sweet.
Just doing my job.
Brainwashing seminars in the form of meat.
AK-47, the very best there is. When you absolutely, positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitute.
This is my boomstick!
Oh, that's not me, no.
If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Then it doesn't matter where in the world you hide or how tough you think you are, because you're not going to be breathing air for much longer.
What the Oh, that's not me, no.
Terrorists forces him to kill them all. John will kill you dead and then mock you afterwards.
Happy trails, Hans.
You know why they call me Dirty Harry?
You asshole. 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 You asshole.
You don't listen, do you, asshole?
It's the law.
You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Do you, punk?
He's got his own idea of right and wrong, and he's willing to break the law to keep the good people safe.
Say hello to my little friend! Yeah, isolated bubbles in the form of social networks.
Terror. Weapons of mass destruction. Evil terrorists. Terrorists, no. Terror. Weapons of mass destruction.
And answer for every shot that I took. And answer for every shot that I took. Willing to meet my creator. And answer for every shot that I took.
Olsen Canadian, this is live. What a great time.
Not real. Not real.
You ain't me. You don't control me. I control you. You ain't me. I'm coming to get you.
You want to get rid of me, Jake? You want to make an enemy out of me? You want to get rid of me, do ya? Do ya? You want to get rid of me? Me. Boom. Huh. Still here, Jake? How long have I looked after you? You can't win this one without me. Oh, no. You know why? I am you.
You're not me.
Come on! Your best fucking